Erica, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm kind of processing what Davey just said, which is fascinating, and I hadn't really thought about this question of cognition before. Um, my, you know, I think when I read this text and I think about performativity and authorship, and I would also add improvisation into this conversation. I think that one of the things that you see in the Beats and in Bob Kaufman in particular is improvisation and the difference between what gets said and what makes it onto the page. And I'm just kind of sitting here thinking about an experience I had teaching how you sound. In the spring, I was doing a tutorial with a student, and this essay really kind of blew his mind and shifted what he understood to be acceptable writing. And it's really lines like, I make a poetry with what I feel is useful and can be saved out of the garbage of our lives. Like, that's a really powerful statement. It's a democratizing statement too. It's kind of inviting all eyes into that eye, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Jason, a quick thought on this?
Yeah, following with Erica, that the I in the Beats makes me think, I kind of get a little bit frustrated with the kind of way in which we canonize the Beats, like that Ginsberg's performance is Ginsberg, or that it's kind of half of academia and half of commodification, that we get these individuals as authors, and it's not that their I becomes them, instead of available to me. Like, if I say my poetry is whatever I think I am, I can take that I unto myself, and that we have a reverence for performance that doesn't make space for everyone, for the performance as a script for one's own performance of self.
Wow. Wow. Okay, Doug, there's so much you could respond to. I'm sure you have many thoughts. What's one?
Well, there is this, the performance creates another form. I mean, the poetry reading is a form. It is a part of the reverence that you're talking about is this notion of authenticity, right? What's the first thought, best thought, right? Is that's the edict.
Kerouac.
That's Kerouac. But it's not first thought, true thought. It's not first thought, real thought, right? This best is not necessarily saying true or real, right? So the poetry reading is a form, just as the book is a form. It's a format. And, we can go and see people like the Black Took Collective rupture that form. We could see lots of people at the time, these readers were rupturing that form, and people could look at that and could go, I can be that I can put that on. If we're creating a counterculture, if you're creating a counterculture that's actually meant to be something other than an exclusive club, which is one of the things I think your intention with in this moment, then it has to also be a model for how you can exist, right? Or else it's just a show, and it becomes a country club that we have membership in, and we're just trying to be cool, and you're a square, and you can't do it, right? But if you're actually creating something that's supposed to actually transform more than just your group of friends, then it has to be a way that you can move and exist in the world. So it is a form, and at that level, it's the authenticity of it gets like becomes a weird sort of fetishized thing. And that whole term, that whole concept, when you're dealing with art and artifice, like what is the real version? Improvisation, it's not like improvisation isn't going up and saying, I've never played piano before. Blang, bong, bling, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm doing jazz. Like that's not what's happening up there, right? You know, so there's a practice, right? There's a practice, which also means that there is a way of doing this thing. And you do this thing, and that's the way you undo this other thing, right? So that sense of being, doing what this person up here is doing now, that you can, and I don't mean put this on in like put on, but you can practice this, and that the act of practicing this is supposed to bleed out from beyond it's Wednesday night at the open mic, that now you're supposed to carry this on outside of this context. And what happens if you don't? What happens if you do this when you're in line to pay your light bill? What happens if you do this when you're thinking about who you're going to vote for? What happens if you do this, right? So I think that is one of the ways that I think about it. If your writing is a practice, if your performance is a practice, and it's a practice that you're picking up from a tradition, which literally means not just you, then how does it actually change the way you are in the world? And so that to me is really a resonant critique and a really important moment of intervening in the kind of lionization of making these individuals, because that also cordons them off and keeps them nice and safe from infecting other people.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and thinking of it as performance as a gift, rather than as a treasure.
Yeah. Okay. Gift versus thank you. Yeah.
Thank you both.